All right, hello. My name is Jordan Geiger. I use he, him pronouns. I was born and raised in Boonville, Missouri. I'm an artist, a practicing Buddhist, and also a volunteer in hospice care. Art practice, spiritual contemplation, and caregiving are three perspectives from which I explore the world. Each offers a slightly different view and way of being. Central to all of these is the idea of presence, open awareness, empty and responsive, a grounded space of possibility, beyond trying to fix or control anything. I seek presence in meditation, in drawing, stitching, playing music, and in the course of caregiving. I'm going to die. Everyone I love is going to die. But in the present, I can breathe, and I can give my attention to this miracle of life while it lasts. My work in textiles, paintings, drawings, performance, and poetry is a vehicle for me to explore spiritual concepts. Here is a drawing as meditation. As I draw, I breathe in, I hold, and out, each for 4 counts, and then I repeat, moving my pen in a triangle fashion along with my breathing. I silently chant a mantra, and this calms my anxiety, a diagram of an inner process. I can see the days where I bore down harder with my pen, sitting on my antique crazy quilt, trying to slow my thoughts, and the days where I was more calm, zoning out with the pattern of the sound and the motion of my hand marking the paper. Here on fabric is a meditation as a drawing, a calendar-like grid of 84 years of days, what I thought would be a long life to live, around 30,000 squares in total. Inside the grid, I draw yellow X's, one for each day I have lived in my 44 years, a chart of the time I have left and of the possibilities afforded to me, a visual representation of my own impermanence radiating outward like a sun. I spent 20 years as an itinerant musician. I see music as a way of channeling energy. My emotions and the audience and space all interact and arise in the form of sound within the openness of our presence, our shared presence. Sitting in front of my calendar of days, I improvise music on my pump organ as my dear friend Lynn Smith reads a poem I wrote with Sarah Moon. Each line is written on a fabric strip, which she hands out to the crowd one by one as the poem is performed. Ocean of Days, the poem, is addressed to myself. Representing my life graphically, I see it as a long series, a rhythmic pattern, and I wanted to ask myself, what are you going to do with all of these individual days? So many and so few. I include the audience in my self-questioning as an offering, and I hope it causes similar questions to arise in their experience. Buddhist practice begins with an aspiration prayer. The highest intentions are put into words, and we remind ourselves over and over what it is we are trying to embody. For Buddhists, this is to dispel the miseries of the world for the sake of all sentient beings. It's a tall order. I made my own aspiration prayer, called Prayer for a New Era, in the form of fabric strips painted with words. It is through working with dying and bereaved people that I have come upon these ideas. We will live every day as if it's our last. We will live every moment as if it's our first. We will die every lifetime as if we will come back as those for whom we cared the least. I hand-stitched the strips together with my mom's help. Hi, Mom. And I hung the textile on a copper wire, a conductor of energy. Displayed on black velvet, the words emanate from the viewer upwards and outwards. Here I draw from literary as well as craft tradition. I took the 19th century quilt pattern courthouse steps and stretched it to the proportions of a door, the size of my body. Influenced by Loretta Petway of the Gee's Bend Quilters and my quilting mentor, Kim Eichler-Mesmer of the Fiber Department at the Kansas City Art Institute. The title is a reference to a quote from Kafka, a radiance streaming immortally from the door of the law. My door is a portal to an internal space for meditation, prayer, or the wrapping of one's body. It's also a pun, using a quilt pattern and Kafka. I don't think that's been done before. I draw upon the tradition of white-on-white whole cloth quilting. The image arises out of textural differences in a field of sameness. To me, this is suggestive of the arising of images in the space of the mind. It becomes a warm surface containing all colors, a compressed rainbow, a unity in diversity from which my mark may emerge by the act of mindful stitching. It is an act of devotion and asks the viewer to reset their perceptions to the subtle contrast, a quiet space where one may choose to enter. The objects I create often seek to communicate a sense of calm. When I first saw Agnes Martin's White Flower 2 in person, I was transfixed. It embodies a timeless presence, the feeling of seeing the flower, a moment of meditation made material. I aspire to this in my work. On the left, I spent the days of the last presidential election stitching long lines and breathing calmly, a form of protest against the noise of our culture and how I plan to respond to all the oncoming crises. All these works led me here. This piece, the Buddha Maitreya, is my contribution to our MFA exhibition. It is a large whole cloth quilt stitched with the image of a piano, my grandmother Opal Wiseman's piano, which I used to play in her basement. In front of the quilt sits the original bench and a stack of 108 fabric strips which viewers are encouraged to take until there are none left. 108 is considered a sacred number in Buddhism, representing the wholeness of the universe. 5 years ago, I punched the keys of this piano in a moment of self-hatred during a time when I felt my identity had dissolved. I made it a sculpture by sanding a hole in the front by hand and making the broken keys visible, and then I displayed the dust from the hole on the bench. After showing it, I stored it outside and watched the piano break down in the elements until it was finally taken away to the landfill. I titled it, "Nothing Good Is Ever Gone." I couldn't find any trace in the actual object of what made it so special to me, so symbolic of my grandmother's spirit and myself. The piano returns in this mandala-like form as an apparition of sorts. Not a ghost exactly, but more like a memory or something from a dream, existing outside time and only partially seen, through an image which draws the viewer into it like a whispering voice. The Buddha Maitreya is a sort of messianic figure. Vietnamese Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said, "The Buddha of the 21st century, Maitreya, the Buddha of love, may well be a community rather than an individual." I reference the Zen painting tradition here. Sengai's universe is translated into 3 portals, which also appear on the front of the quilted image. I hand draw each fabric strip. In the spirit of love, generosity, and subtlety, I hope to give rise to an idea. We can become this mindful community. We have the materials to make a more compassionate way of living before we pass away. The beginning is near. It begins with a mindful breath. Thank you.